Welcome to Field Trip Friday. We are here with Liberty Wildlife and CSO Sarah. So we're excited to take you on a tour of the Liberty Wildlife Hospital. So take it away.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Hello, Sarah. Sarah's going to lead us through everything. My name is Laura, and I'm with Liberty Wildlife. Sarah's one of the CSOs with the Arizona SciTech Institute, and she has been working with me to plan this hospital tour. So if you have any questions throughout this entire process, go ahead and put them in the chat, and I'll keep an eyeball on Sarah. And if she has any questions, she can shout them out for you. And hopefully I'll answer everything as we go along. Basically, quick history of Liberty Wildlife. If you haven't heard of us before, we are a nonprofit wildlife rescue and rehabilitation center in Phoenix. We were actually founded 40 years ago. So this is our 40th year anniversary. 1981, we were a tiny little organization in the backyard of our founder's house. Dr. Kathy Orr was a veterinarian taking care of dogs and cats at the Arizona Humane Society at the time. And people would bring wildlife to her and say, here, I have a sick bird or an injured skunk and any kind of wildlife. And she realized there wasn't a location for them to bring those animals. And so she opened up her backyard. For those of us who may know us, we were up at Scottsdale and Shea area up until just a couple of years ago. And that's where we were for the first 35 years, in her backyard. She had about 1.25 acres of land. She was raising llamas, so she had land there. And she started building up some of the enclosures and creating a hospital and working right there from her house. And that first year, she took in probably about 80 animals. But every year after that, we grew. There were more animals coming in. There were more volunteers coming in. Eventually, people asked us to do education programs and come out to community events. So we just grew as an organization to the point that we outgrew her backyard. There was just no way. We were closing in on about 6,000, 7,000 animals a year when we were on our final years there up in Scottsdale. And so we did a huge campaign to raise funds, and then also did a huge for the right location. And we ended up here at our location at 2600 East Elwood. We're just south of Sky Harbor Airport, and we've been here since 2016. We have just over 6 acres of land now. So we have room for a really large hospital, as well as a education side that we can be open to public. And you guys can come visit us and see some of the things that we have going on. Came just in time because we, every year since we've here, have hit record number of intakes. This year we had 910, and we thought that would be our highest number. Maybe we would hit 10,000 this year. I think we all realized that 2020 was a doozy. And so we hit our largest number of 12,156 patients that came into our hospital this year. When you do come to visit us, you don't get to come into the hospital because it is a working hospital, but we do have windows that let you look in. So this is an opportunity for you guys to get to see not just my face, but the hospital. So I'm going to actually turn it around right now so you can actually see what I am looking at, if I can figure it out. There we go. All right. So we've got one of our awesome volunteers, Angela, working the first place that you come to when you visit Liberty Wildlife's hospital. This is our intake area. And right through those windows is where people will line up and bring their animals to us. We work just like a human hospital, where you get hurt or injured outside playing, then you get brought to a hospital either by ambulance or by friends or family. You guys out there in the general public are the friends and family of the Arizona wildlife. You guys are the ones that bring the wildlife to us. Now, occasionally we get things that have talons and claws and sharp teeth and fangs, and we certainly don't want you risking yourselves getting hurt by bringing them in. So we do have rescue transport volunteers that are like the ambulances that bring them here. in the springtime, coming up very soon, that window right there won't be empty. We will have lines of people bringing animals to us, and a lot of them are babies. So this is strawberry baskets, but without the strawberries. They're all prepared to be tiny little nests for a lot of the young nestling babies that we're going to be getting within the next couple of weeks. We're preparing for that onslaught. Then we have larger bins. Those are for the larger birds. So this is your first entrance into Liberty Wildlife if you're a patient. Then we walk further down the hall. It's nice and quiet right now. Won't be soon. But this is, just like in a human hospital, a triage center. So this is the first place that the animals will see, or the first time the animals will see any kind of medical care. We've got our medical exam table right here. We have volunteers that have been trained on the job here. They've gone through a class here at Liberty Wildlife, and they've learned here from senior volunteer medical staff, or medical volunteers, I guess. They're not staff, they're all volunteers. They learn the basics of assessing a patient. So just like a doctor and nurse would assess you when you get to the hospital, they do that with our animals. They will figure out what the main cause of injury is or why it's sick. They'll get weight. They will also try and help with any kind of pain management. They can give fluids. They can give some steroids to help with any kind of swelling. And really, it's just basically a chance to get that patient stable and come up with a game plan of how we're going to treat it. Now, these guys are stable, but they're in here because they just needed a place to have a nice heat lamp. So this was a good location for them. So we have a couple baby desert tortoises that are munching on some lettuce right now. And then another fun thing that we have over here, we'll go behind the netting. These are some of the first animals and babies that we get as we move into the spring season. These guys are all adult hummingbirds. They don't do very well with the cold. So a lot of times you'll find them on the ground on cold mornings or nights, and they need to come in here and just kind of warm up, get a little bit of sustenance in them with those little nectar feeders we have there. And then we can release them when they're feeling better. So we have a couple hummingbirds. But you can see we've got different size enclosures. We've got a brooder right next to that to keep animals warm. Larger enclosures for some of our larger patients. We've got a couple of retired crows here that used to be part of our education program, but now they need a smaller space. They're a little bit older. They can't move around as well. So they've got a nice little retirement home together. And then we've got Bongo, who is a new raven that is, you can't see his foot right now, but he's got kind of a messed up little foot. So he can't perch very well. And while we were trying to fix that perch, or fix that foot, he kind of got used to being with us. He was already very friendly, and he just kind of got more used to us. And so he's non-releasable, and he's going to stay with us. He was sharing a picture of his dinner right there. But his name's Bongo. And so he'll learn to become an education animal and come out for programs. So if you come visit us, you might get to see him one day. Here's one of our lovely workers right now, Debbie. So that's where the patients will get stabilized, and we'll come up with that plan of attack of how we're going to treat them. Across the hallway is basically like if you were going to be medical treatment. They get food and water every day. They get bandages changed, all their medicine, anything that has these fancy little index cards right here means that they're getting medications. So you'll see the smaller birds get smaller bins. When they're sick or injured, we don't want them to have to move around too much. So they have smaller enclosures. Looks like we have a woodpecker. You can't see because we give them a nice little cavity to hide in. The larger animals are going to get some of the larger enclosures here. There's a big raven back there. Like I said, we're kind of quiet right now. We'll see if this guy's camera shy. Red-tailed hawk. Couple of red-tailed hawks. We're really quiet right now, actually. We like to see the quiet before the big storm comes. This looks like there's a cormorant in here, so you can see he's got a bandage wrap on. Hi, buddy. And so this is just where they're getting that treatment before they can be released back out into the wild. You'll see we have rooters here. That one's a little hard to see. It's older and hard to see through. But just like human hospital, you're getting taken care of and coming up with a plan of when we can release you back into the world. So we've got a nice long hallway. What's great about this facility and being in our doctor's house or backyard is that we have rooms for, this is kind of messy because we're getting ready for the spring season. So we're getting everything organized, but this is our medicine room where we keep a lot of the different drugs that we're going to use, a lot of the different splints and bandages. So it's our kind of our lab prep room. You can see we can do some lab work. So we've got spinners and microscopes to take a look at things. What's cool is we can go a little bit further down and we've got this little hidden space. Let's get a light on. And this, we've got an autoclave, just like you would see at the hospital, for getting all your surgery utensils prepped and cleaned and sterilized. This is our prep room for animals are going to go into surgery. Really cool. I was talking about how we have volunteers helping us. Our veterinarians that we use here for these surgeries and for the more serious cases are all volunteers as well. So we have about 7 volunteer veterinarians that spend some of their free time here helping our animals out. So once you've gone through the lab prep area, then you get the surgery suite here. This is not a real chipmunk, but we just like to show people, you can see the windows are right there. Those are windows to where the public can look in when you come to visit. So if we do have a surgery going on, sometimes on Saturdays we have surgeries, we have a couple more vets here, you will actually be able to see some of the surgeries going on. And it's just like in a human hospital where you've got all the lights and all the equipment for the anesthesia. We've got a TV screen for when we get bored. Just kidding. That's our x-ray machine. We actually have a digital x-ray machine right next door. And so we can shoot an x-ray and then immediately that picture will come up on the x-ray screen right here. So our vets are able to take a look at the animal that they're working on while they're working on them. So we're really excited that we have this in our facility now. So I am going to go a little bit backwards and go back down the hallway because I skipped over one room that I wanted to show everybody. It's on the hospital side, but this really is good for, let me see if I can find the lights. It's dark. There they are. There we go. It's our solar power inverter room. So Liberty Wildlife really wants to practice what we preach. We are all about being sustainable and being conservation minded. So we do have solar panels that were given to us by SRP that are on the roof of our facility. And this is the fancy room that helps us, we call it actually the Sunny Boy room because of that. It's a little bit more technical than I'm used to. So I usually just show it off and then move on back to the hospital world where I'm a little bit more comfortable. But it's really neat that we have this ability that we're pretty much net zero energy usage at our facility. And we love that. We have isolation areas for when we get cases of maybe aspergillosis or canker, or some of the things that are a little bit more transmissible between animals. We do have a mammals room. So a lot of people think that Liberty Wildlife is only birds, but we take care of all native wildlife. So we get mammals, we get these guys. This is a fun room to go in. We get skunks, we get reptiles as well, lizards and snakes. This room is pretty quiet right now, But again, we've had a couple of babies. I don't want to be in the picture. A couple of babies born already. Let's see. And we get the newborn babies, and then we get the little bit bigger baby bunnies. You're famous, bunny. We'll get little squirrels. And so we didn't realize that we were actually going to need this room for bunnies. We suddenly one year realized that we needed a whole room for small mammals of Arizona. So we actually have a team of volunteers that come in and make sure these guys are fed and cleaned and given the medication that they need. When they're really little, they even have to help go to the bathroom. So it's actually a pretty full job for when our volunteers are in here with their shift. But it's pretty cute. They're pretty cute animals. So you can see working hospital, lots of fun stuff. Oh, we got a little chunky ground squirrel. So he's actually a really good story for me to share with you guys. Somebody found him when he was a baby, and just like all little baby mammals, he's really cute. Little baby squirrels are cute. And so they thought they could keep him as a pet. The problem is they're all wild animals. And once they hit maturity and their crazy hormones, adult hormones come in, they get nippy, they get bitey, and these guys have rodent teeth that are really sharp and piercing. And so he started biting the people that were taking care of him. So now he's here with us because they can't have him anymore. He likes being around people. He's used to being around people, but he will bite people. So when we have to decide what we're going to do with him, if he's going to become part of our education collection and stay with us forever, or if we can get him to kind of wild up again and not depend on humans so much and get released back out into the wild. So that is unfortunately something we have to do and help out some of these animals, because people think that wild animals make good pets, but they do not. So this room is in prep because this season is upon us. This room is our orphan care room, and get the lights on in here too. It will probably within the next week or so be fully set up, and we'll reach out to our teams and volunteers about coming in for their training and getting prepped. But you see all these heaters, all these bins. We've got brooders over there, incubators, enclosures. And this is where all the young songbirds come, from hatchlings to fledglings. They will all come here, and our volunteers have about 4-hour shifts where they just go down the line and open up the first bin, and the bird chirps at it, and they feed them whatever this chart says, tells you what each of the birds likes to eat. And then they go down this line and feed all the ones, and by the time you get to the end, that first baby is hungry again. So you start over. So it actually gets to be a really loud room eventually. But it's a fun one. It's seasonal, and they'll be starting up soon. All those tissue boxes are cavities for our cavity nesters, so woodpeckers and flickers. They like to hide in things like that. But pretty cool. Yeah, so eventually we'll probably get some videos once the season is upon us that I will share on social media, so you'll get to see the hustle and bustle of orphan care. All right, we do have a break room for our volunteers. We don't make them work so hard without giving them a chance to relax. All right, and so the last step of being in a hospital is, of course, the fun of being released, getting back to your life. But if you've been in a cast for a long time and the doctor, hello, ducks. These are not rehab animals. They're just here to hang out with you guys. Hi, guys. But when you recover from an injury, you usually can't return to play right away. You have to have some kind of physical therapy. Well, same with our animals. They've been in a small enclosure for a while they've been getting taken care of. So they can't just get released into the wild and expect to run fast enough or fly fast enough to catch food and get away from predators. So we've got these large enclosures out here that are pre-release enclosures. So they can fly around and run around and build their muscles up. And we've got different sizes. We've got different lengths and different things inside. Let's see, we'll see who's in these ones right here. Da, da, da. Oh, I see something kind of adorable in this one. We have our first great horned owl baby of the season. I don't think I'm able to zoom right now. But these are some of our foster parents. So we do have some adult birds that are non-releasable. So this one and that other one over there are both adult great horned owls that cannot be released for one reason or another, an injury that would preclude them from living well in the wild, but they don't want to do education programs. So they actually become foster parents, and they are fostering this first baby owl of the season. Oh, there we go. I can zoom in. Super cute. So throughout the season, we usually have close to about 90 fledgling or baby owls, great horned owls, that come to us, and we're completely hands off, and we let the adults do all the work so that they remain completely wild. And we do that with a bunch of different species. We have a bunch of different hawks that do it, the red-tailed hawks, the Harris hawks. We have some kestrels and falcons that do it. It's a really great program so that we can ensure that these animals, when they get released, do not relate to humans and don't want to come land in your backyard looking for food. So very cute. I did not know that you guys were going to get to see that today. That was good. Lucky, because everybody wants to see that. So that's pretty much our hospital in a nutshell. It's very much a different story every single day. When you come in, you're going to always have different animals there, and different injuries come in every day from the window or from our rescue team. And then I know Kelly, who's on from the SciTech Institute, she loves these guys. These are not wild animals. These are our domestic goats.
Baby goats.
Yes. And hello, this is Cookie. They actually act as lawn care for us, so we don't have to use any kind of pesticides on the weeds. They go around and they do all our lawn mowing for us. All right, and these guys want to steal the show again. For some reason, these guys want to hang out here all the time with us. So that pretty much wraps up in a really small nutshell the Liberty Wildlife Hospital. So hopefully you guys have gotten to see some really cool things, and shout out now and start asking some questions and give me the hard questions and see if I can answer them for you. We'll go back inside.
Well, we want to welcome CSO Sarah as the moderator. So Sarah, if you can pull questions from the chat.
Oh, yeah, sure. So her first question is, are all animal species capable of fostering behavior, or does it depend on the social structure of the species?
That is a really good question. Not every animal will do that foster care. We usually save that for the birds of prey. And like you see right here, we've got a raven. Some of the higher intelligence, I'm using quotations, but yes, those birds tend to need the foster care program more than, say, our little sparrow over here. The songbirds, they can be fed by humans, like our orphan care team, and be dependent on us. This guy's begging to us right now, actually. There we go. But when we release them, they don't have that urge to come back to humans later. They may not be as wary of them, but they will not, beg from humans, and they will tend to fly off. So it really does depend on the animals. We do with mammals. We will have, a lot of times if we get something like a baby bobcat, we don't have adult bobcats here. So if it's healthy, we can send it up to a place like Southwest Wildlife, where they have adult bobcats that will then raise those babies as their own so they can be released. So it does depend on the species. Good question.
Next question. For the orphan care room, can we donate materials like the tissue boxes?
Well, that's a really good question, Debbie. This is a question that you might be able to answer. Do you think that we need donations in the form of tissue boxes or anything, or is it more probably monetary?
We do get a lot of tissue box donations, but I mean, monetary is always nice, specifically what it is at that time.
And she's casually answering that question while she is taking care of this thrasher right here.
It's a mocker.
Oh, it is a mocker?
Yeah.
Okay.
Good, here we go.
Oh, so that mockingbird just got his PM meds. Second dose of meds today.
Water is good. All right.
All right. Thank you, Debbie.
You're welcome.
All right. Any other questions out there?
Oh, we have plenty of questions.
Okay.
How long did the animals stay in your care on average?
Oh, that is a good question. And that one is one that varies. It depends on the severity of the injury. So if it's something where we have a bird that maybe hit a window, that might just take a matter of a couple of days for them to kind of get over their headache, to get down any swelling that they might have from hitting the window. So that might be a matter of days. If we have something that has maybe a broken leg that the vets have to put a pin in, then of course that's going to take a little bit longer. So every Tuesday night, we have something called Vet Night. And our vet techs, our volunteer vet techs, as well as our animal care coordinator, staff member, Jan Miller, get together with the vets and go through the patients and look at what we have and what we need to do within the next week. So whether it's surgeries, whether it's just more cage rest, or whether an animal is ready for release.
Okay, another question I see. Is it true that making diagnoses using equipment and care more expensive than human medical care?
Yeah, it can be extremely expensive because these animals can't talk to us like humans can. So they don't come into us and necessarily if they're sick and say, I have a stomach ache. So we don't, can't immediately go to whatever equipment you use in a human hospital to figure out the problem. So it can get more expensive because you have to try a bunch of different things sometimes, and you may not get the first thing right away. Thank you, Bongo. So it's just a little bit trickier. As a nonprofit, we do get a lot of one, volunteer vets, but two, also some donations from some of the local hospitals that have helped us out with some of the things. And one example is our digital X-ray machine was donated. The money was donated by one of our longtime volunteers and supporters. So we are really thankful that we've got great people to help us out with all of that.
How can COVID-19 change the way you do procedures and work with volunteers, if at all?
Yeah, well, it definitely did change things. I am not wearing a mask right now just because I wanted you guys to be able to hear me. But normally, if I were walking around the hallways here, you see like Debbie and Angela all had masks on. We are constantly masking up, and especially the vets and the med services people, they're in close quarters because somebody has to hold the animal while the vets are right there looking closely. So we have, we're always masked up, especially when we're in those close situations. We do have the N95 masks here for those who want to use it. We lost a lot of volunteers at the beginning of COVID. They didn't feel comfortable coming in, and we did not hold that against them at all. So we were functioning kind of shorthanded for a little while. People with vaccines are slowly starting to come back. But it's definitely been an adjustment to get used to it.
What is your favorite animal in care?
So it's really funny that I work with native species like hawks and eagles and owls and these cute little tortoises. And my favorite animal is actually the domestic goats. I've just always loved goats. But I'll tell you, before I signed on with you guys, I was feeding our eagles. We have a bunch of bald eagles and a couple of golden eagles. And so today is my day to take care of them. And I was working with Cochise, who is a bald eagle. He's about 6 years old. And I'm just developing a relationship with him right now and got to take him out on my glove out of his enclosure and kind of sit out at a perch with him today. So I guess it kind of changes from day to day, depending on what experience I've had that day.
Very cool. What are the top reasons patients wind up in your care?
Ooh, another good question. Most of the time, they come here because of some kind of human-induced issue. Not that humans are actively trying to hurt them, but getting hit by cars, by losing habitat. If people are trimming trees during baby season, that's a huge one that's coming up now. People will start trimming their trees during the spring, but that's where the babies are in nests. Flying into windows. We also see them coming in with poisons because people are trying to put out rodenticides or pesticides to get rid of different pests and weeds. So of course we are strongly against that, which is one of the reasons why we have the goats to eliminate pesticides here. We see animals coming in on sticky traps. And I did start off by saying that a lot of it is human caused, not intentionally. We do see some intentional human caused ones, which are gunshots. We will find pellets in some of the birds that come in and some of the mammals too, which is always astounding to us when we shoot the x-ray and we see the little bullets inside of them.
Can people visit your facility?
Yes, we are open to the public. Right now we're open Wednesdays, Saturdays, and Sundays from 10 o'clock until 1 o'clock. So we're open this weekend. We have a whole education side where you can walk around and see the non-releasable birds of prey. So our hawks and owls and eagles and falcons. We also have a room where we've got most of our reptiles as well as some mammals. And we have volunteers out during that time that are able to bring some of the animals out so you can see them up a little bit more closely, get some good pictures, and just learn a little bit more about their individual histories and why they are at Liberty Wildlife. So if you look at libertywildlife.org or go to Facebook or Instagram, we've got a lot of information on those sites about where we're located and times. And we'd love to see everybody here this weekend.
Did you get more animal rescues after the big fires this past summer?
You know, we have been asked that question by the news outlets, and we didn't get too many. And we think part of it is because most people bring birds to us, think to bring birds to us. And when the fires broke out, a lot of the birds were good enough to fly away. And unfortunately, the ones that couldn't fly away perished. So we didn't get too many birds. And we've even heard from our counterparts at Southwest Wildlife and some of the other mammal rehabs that they didn't get as many as well. So we're hoping that it just means that they escaped. They knew it was coming and they ran before they could get engulfed in the flames. We do have heard about some of the animals getting thrown off course because they've lost some habitat now where the fires were. So they don't have the same places to land as they're migrating through. So we have heard reports of some birds ending up in locations where you wouldn't normally find them because they haven't been able to stop in the normal locations.
Okay, I don't see any more questions in the chat at the moment. I have one of my own. What is the most common surgery and what is the most unique surgery that has been done there?
Oh yeah, a fairly common surgery is putting what we call a pin in the wing. And so that's when we have a compound fracture. So a break that's pretty clean, the full bone is broken, but their bones are not hollow, which is what people usually say, but they're called pneumatic. So they're kind of air filled. They're not as thick as human bones where we have a lot of marrow. And because they're light and almost hollow, they're easy to kind of piece back together and they will heal really easily back together. So our vets can put pins in there to make sure they align straight. So that's fairly common, fairly easy for our vets who've been doing it for a while. It's a pretty simple surgery for them. My favorite surgery is on the California condor because we'll get them here occasionally. The Peregrine Fund is in charge of kind of monitoring the population up by the Grand Canyon. And if they ever get sick or injured, they will bring them down here. And a lot of times they're sick with lead poisoning, which is something that we're very concerned about in the wild. And actually in the human world too. You know, we hear stories, Flint, Michigan and other places of lead in water. Well, lead is toxic to humans as well as other animals. So these animals sometimes get lead poisoning. And when they're brought down here, we actually have to put a feeding tube into their stomach because the lead poisoning prevents them from digesting their food. So they're hungry and they're trying to eat, but they can't digest and get all the nutrition they need. So it's a pretty amazing surgery because they're such big birds. And then if you think about it, a big bird like that with a feeding tube, somebody's got to put food into that feeding tube. It takes 3 of us to do that every day. We have to catch the bird and one person holds the wing and the legs. The other person holds the head and the beak. And then the third person is able to put that feeding tube in to feed them. So it's a pretty crazy process right there.
Oh, that's very crazy. Do you see avian species having increased respiratory issues due to air pollution?
Well, that's a pretty good question. I don't know 100% what the numbers are on that. But I don't, when they come to us, usually if it's something that has a bad respiratory infection, they probably would pass away before they even get to us, because birds are so sensitive and they're also very stoic. So they basically don't show their weakness until the very end. So if they were having respiratory issues, a lot of times they put up a good fight right until the end. So they'll pass away before they get here. We don't see too many with respiration issues. We're more probably, we see a lot more of the trauma issues. But that's a good question, and one that I'll have to run by my vets and my med services team.
No other questions so far, but I recently had Great Dane puppies, so I know how hard it is when they have to go out at night. Do you have any people to watch over the orphans at night?
So we do have people here most daylight hours. Debbie, who you saw, is our nighttime closer, so she's usually one of the last ones to stay here. But just like humans, when it gets dark, the baby birds kind of tuck down at night and pretty much go to sleep. So we let them sleep through the night. Our teams will get here close to, sometimes 5, 6 o'clock in the morning and start their shift. And once those babies are awake, they are eating all day long. So they make the fact that they're sleeping for those couple hours that we're not here. All right.
Does anyone have any other questions?
Well, I was super excited to show you guys around. I tried to limit my time and my talking so that I wouldn't keep you here all night long. But if you ever meet anyone who volunteers or works for Liberty Wildlife, you know that we can talk for hours upon end about our animals and what we've done and the different cool animals we've gotten to work with. So if you have any questions, you can always go on to our social media accounts or Facebook or Instagram or webpage and get in touch with us to ask us any more questions, or even better, you can come down here and visit us and ask our volunteer team and our interpretive guides and learn a little more about the animals that we're here.
Absolutely. And we're hosting our VIP CSO event on the 27th. So if students and I know Lisa's on the call are interested in attending, make sure you let me know. So we're going to try to keep it to about 20 people in person, but definitely, how else can teachers get in touch with you if they'd like to have you Zoom into their classroom, Laura?
Oh yeah, libertywildlife.org. So if you just search us on Google or do libertywildlife.org, we have a tab there. I think it says education or how to visit. And we've got all different kinds of programs. We do still have some volunteers that will go out to schools that are allowing it and to events. We do have field trips available here. They're small. We can't allow as many people as we used to, but smaller schools have been coming here. We have GoTo meetings where we can zoom in like this. So if you are our website, there's a whole bunch of options. Yeah.
What is the chipmunk's name?
I think somebody was calling him Charlie.
Charlie.
He's a squirrel. Cute. Yeah, ground squirrel. He is.
The other thing I wanted to let you know, you and Sarah, I would like we're going to try to pitch a visit from the news media. So maybe Channel 10 to come out and focus on what you've been able to share with us during the 10th season of the Arizona SciTech Festival and how wonderful Liberty has been as a collaborator. So hopefully I'll be sending that information, and hopefully we can get you guys some added recognition for being an amazing collaborator with us.
Oh, that's amazing.
Oh, it's been a lot of fun. Yeah, we'd be down for it.
Excellent. Well, again, to everybody who was able to join our new link with a password that we had to change because we were still on Easter Island, which was incredible. It was both in English and Spanish. We apologize for the broken access because we had a different link available. But for those of you that were able to join, thank you. For those of you watching this later, we absolutely adore Liberty Wildlife, the Birds of Prey presentation, the Reptiles of the Desert presentation. There's so much that they've already shared with us during the 10th season of the Arizona SciTech Festival. And we just want to give you a huge shout out. Thank you, Laura. Thank you, CSO Sarah. And for Field Trip Friday, sponsored by Zovio, we want to say thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good weekend.
Thank you.
Good night.